Hello everyone, welcome back in another video. Today, date is 7th of November 2022, and in our today's video, we are going to see Angular components. That means the components which are used in Angular. Okay, first of all, we see why we need a component in Angular. If whenever we using any application, suppose we are take example of our WhatsApp. In WhatsApp, there was a structure is like that. There is at a center level. There was we can able to see the messages and communication on in middle tab. If we are sliding them right side, that time we can able to see a status. Okay, there was an option for watching a status. Then if we again slide it at the left side, then we can see the call logs. That means the WhatsApp calls are there. So all those things comes under that one application. That means whenever a developer can develop that code, that time they should create a different component for the different functions. For like that message and communication, for that they create a one different component. For the status visibility of status, it create a different component, and for that call log, it create a different component. If they cannot create a different component, that time the whole code comes under the one component file. That means the different kinds of methods like their messaging method, their status method, and their call log method, all those method, if they written in only one component file, that time if any error is occur, that time it's very hurdle or difficult to identify that error, to solve that error, for the purpose of reading and understanding purpose. That code is very heavy and huge to understand, and it make a bulky size of the component file. That's why we need creating a component as per their functionality. Okay, as we know, when we are creating a project in Angular, that time we in our uh, terminal we pass the one command, that is ng ngg and ngg. For creating a new project, we can write as ng and new, and then name of that project. So that time we get a create a new project. So in a project there was some of the predefined files are there. The files like within the app file, there was a different four files are there. The files like component.html, then component.spec.ts, then component.ts, then component.css. So these four files are having their different functionality. As per their functionality, the predefined code is between that. Or if we have to make some changes within our code, that time we can use that particular folder for the particular functionality. In that case, there was a first folder is our component.html. Within that HTML folder, we are writing a structure of a code. Within that folder, we write the structure of code. That means skeleton of code. That means box size, color, position of logo, the size of a page, or different kind of things like a border, and all those things come under that HTML page, HTML file. After that, there is a component.spec.ts. So within that spec file, there is particularly used for a testing purpose. That means when our project is done, that time the testing team can use the access the that file. That's the component.spec.ts. That file can be accessed by the testers, or it is specially purpose of testing. After that, the next is our component.css. CSS is required for the aesthetic purpose of our website, or of our page. That means the coloring, the button size, the shape of that button, or the background of pages, the border size, padding. All those parameters comes under the CSS. All those things which we have to implement on our page, those things are we are returning in our HTML in our component.css file. And the one more file is our component.ts. Our whole business logic is written in our component.ts file, and we can communicate. That means our business logic in our component.ts and our front end page, our front end or our UI, UI structure is in our HTML file. So we have to connect those pages with the internally by using a references of those. Okay, if we are have to create a new object, that means at initial level there is a that is the basic structure of an Angular project. It is the simple structure. As we see, the business logic is there, HTML is there, CSS is there, testing file is there. So for a simple project we can use those logics or use those processes. But there is a project, huge size project are there, or we need a more component within that. That time we have to create a new components for the implementing the logics. Okay, at initial level there was a one index.html file is there. By default index.html file is there. That means our whole connectivity with that business logic or with that the particular pages which are using are written in that index.html. That means when we are starting the execution of our Angular, that time it's firstly find out the index file and execute firstly that index. That's why if we are adding any component, that time we have to mention that component in our HTML. Okay, for creating a new component, that time we have to run one more command in our terminal. We can simply write that nggc and component name. So basically that syntax is like ng means new generation, g new generation, then g for a generate, c for a component, c stands for a component, and then the name of that component. Suppose the name like login, we can call that login. So after the compiling, after the successful compilation, we get the one more component in our table. So that table also containing all those files like component.html, component.css, component.spec, and that component.ts. All those files also it can contain. So now our first initial page is in our app.file. Okay, there is an app file. That app file containing our main component file. That main component file having their HTML files and all those things. So at initial level, the index.html is present in our app file. At initially, it show the display the information which are written in index file. That means that at initially execution, it display the all details which present in index file. So we have to pass the reference of that new login, that login method, that login component which we are creating, and we can pass that information to the HTML and again and our component.ts file. For the passing the information about that particular component, we are get the one class. By default class is there. So that class is there was a one class is present, and that class can contain the metadata. That metadata means there was a different information or address of the components are present within that metadata. It having one feature like within metadata there was address of our file. So we can write the address of our file like at initial level within that files in index. That time they write the address like root. Mm, at initial we can write the root and hyphen and name of that class. So like that, if we are adding one more component, that time we have to write the initially hyphen and name of that particular component. Okay, so there was again the addresses of CSS file and addresses of HTML file, which are initially informed or deployed within the that particular class. So after that class, there was a we have to mention the new component in that our index.html file, because we have to show those component which are present in those the feature methods which are present in our new component on our UI. So that time we simply write within the our diamond bracket, we have to write the opening and closing tag for the particular component. Our component is login, so in our index.html file, we write the index, open tag of in login, and close tab of a login, and between them we write the logic for the HTML. So that's why the main advantage of creating a component is easy to make a readability of code, and improve the performance of code, or if any problem occur at the runtime, or if any problem is occurred in the code, it easily identify the code because of their separation of methods and separation of their features are different. That's why we implementing the much that's why we are creating a more components as per the requirement, or as per the size of a code. So this is overall about components in Angular. Thank you.